Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel on this sunny Sunday afternoon. This week is going to be a bit of a shit show, but in this video, I will provide clarity and context to what we need to be on the lookout for and my expectations for Tesla stock, as well as that, all of your Tesla stock breaking news today, and give you a rundown of the latest Tesla information that we have. All I ask for in return is that you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already and you come here every day or on a regular basis. First and foremost, as I explained in the prior videos, you're really gonna have three main events this week. First and foremost, you have the election, which is going to be on Tuesday. Hopefully we know the results Tuesday night. And we have a new update on that front. Atlas Intel, the most accurate pollster of 2020, releases their official swing state poll showing Donald Trump leading in every swing state. The poll shows Trump leading in Arizona and Nevada by a very comfortable margin. North Carolina up 3.4%, Georgia up 2.5%, Arizona up 6.5%, Nevada up 5.5%. Wisconsin up 1%, Michigan up 1.5%. Again, these are all Trump numbers. And Pennsylvania up 1.8%. And this pollster predicts 312 electorals for Trump, which would give him the win, and Democrats at 226, which obviously would not give them the win. So we will see how markets respond to this coming tomorrow. If you do see bond yields go higher again, if you do see maybe some weakness in markets, it is due to the election. It's not due to earnings. Big tech earnings so far have been good enough, even if they have not been great. The markets are squarely and firmly focused on the election. Now, personally, I think as long as we know who the president is after the election, Tuesday night or by Wednesday morning, by maybe midday Wednesday, there's not going to be much fear left. There's going to be an unwind of some of these short positions. You're likely going to get at least a short-term rally in markets. Now, if there's a sweep, that's a problem. If we have a contested election, that's a problem. Now, I personally don't know. It's like 50-50 if we know who the president is right away or if we do get a contested election. So I have no idea with any degree of certainty whether markets are going to go up or down because of the election over the next couple of days. I lean towards we're going to know who the president is Tuesday night because I think it's going to be a bigger blowout than the polls have been assuming so far. But then let's assume Trump does win. We want to see what happens with bond yields. If bond yields fall, that's going to be a great sign. If bond yields continue to rise, that's really just more of that Trump trade getting priced in. And honestly, the bond market might break, okay? The bond market may just come totally unhinged, and that's a potential risk as well. If Wall Street starts to really forecast a stronger economy, more government spending, more inflation over the next 10 years, those bond yields really have no limit as far as the upside. We have seen inflation reports over the past couple of days that have come in on the hotter side, which, just gives further, I guess, credibility to that Trump trade. Again, just so everyone knows, the Trump trade is stronger economy, higher inflation, more government spending. You've started to see higher inflationary reports coming in. The economy looks like it's doing okay. I mean, the jobs report was not great, but Wall Street kind of gave it a pass because of the Boeing strikes and the hurricane impacts. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty heading into this week. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's some jitters coming tomorrow morning or even Tuesday throughout the trading day. But I would be surprised if we don't get some kind of relief in bonds following the election, at least short term, and could give you upside for markets. And next up, you have the Fed on Thursday. Now, the Fed on Thursday is going to be likely very dovish. I can guarantee you with 100% confidence, the Fed does not like bond yields rising the way that they have, especially considering we just had a 12,000 job number. Like, we literally just had a terrible jobs number, and Treasury yields went up 10 basis points, now to 4.38%. Like, the Fed was trying to ease financial conditions. They were not trying to tighten financial conditions. This makes the Fed's job harder, and this has instinctively raised the odds of a hard landing ever since September 16th, when bond yields are up, 70 plus basis points since the Fed cut rates? 50 basis points. This has increased the odds of a hard landing, and that's not what the Fed wants. So I think the Fed's going to be very dovish. But if the Fed is very dovish, does that just make bond yields go up even more? Here's this post from Jim Bianco that says Bob is 100% correct. This chart shows the rise in long rates never after a first rate cut is unprecedented. The market is rejecting the Fed's rate cutting policy. Why? The economy is good, inflation is not solved, and tariffs are inflationary. I don't agree with that part of the Trump trade. Tariffs, sure, they can be inflationary, but that's not what Trump is trying to do, okay? Trump has to start at the negotiating table on a strong foot, okay? Saying you're going to give companies 50 or 100% tariffs is one thing, but actually doing that is another. If you start at, a 50% tariff, but maybe that works down to a 10% or 15% tariff, that's not nearly as bad. The implications of 50% versus 10 or 15% are way different, but that might actually be good. If you start with a 10% tariff, then it's really hard to have any negotiating leverage, right? So longer term, I don't believe the Trump trade is accurate at all. But in the near term, the markets could believe that, and they actually are believing that. And then the last point here, that we don't need monetary stimulus. And that's crazy. After a 12,000 jobs print, you would think Wall Street would be more on board with the Fed's cutting regime. And Bob says here, the more the Fed commits to cuts, the worse it is for bonds. Now, I think this is really just the Trump trade getting priced in. I think that has had 80+% of the impact to bonds. And again, I don't think that is an accurate take. I think after maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, when we know if Trump is the president or not, then you're probably going to see people relax on this whole Trump trade, because, again, it's one thing to campaign for something and another to actually do it. I mean, look at Biden. Look at the student loan forgiveness. Everyone voted for Biden because of student loan forgiveness. Where is it at? Where's it at? It's not here, okay? Campaigns are one thing. Actual policies are another. So you got to be very careful with what Wall Street is saying right now, the narrative right now. It's 100% incorrect over the longer term. Over the next 6-12 months, we're not even going to think about the Trump trade, I believe, in my personal opinion. With that said, we do have some positive news for Tesla. We have lots of Cybertrucks that arrived in Calgary, Canada today. A ton of them, actually, a bunch of them. Here you have over, 20 pictured, and we start deliveries here in just the next couple of days. The Philippines' first official Tesla showroom is set to open on November 8th. 4 people were in this Cybertruck, and thankfully none of them died. Some were seriously injured. Tesla makes the safest cars on the road. Their active safety features are great in preventing crashes, but if the worst happens, they have the best passive safety of any car brand. And this Cybertruck is totally mangled, which just shows the aggressiveness of how bad this crash really had to have been. And in the news on Friday and more so over this weekend, Warren Buffett sold $22 billion or about 25% of Berkshire Hathaway's Apple stock in Q3. In total, they have sold 67.2% of this stake. Now, some people are going to say this is a big negative for the markets. It's a sign of something to come. And that's not the case. Apple has grown revenue 5% in 3 years. It's essentially a no-growth company. And we're valuing it as one of the fastest growing companies out there. Yes, it's Apple. Nobody's going to leave Apple. There's good reasons why Apple's going to be here for probably our entire lives. But on a risk reward basis, if the economy does get better, if Trump does win, if rates and inflation ultimately do come down, there's a bigger reason to own a broader swath of the markets, not just Apple, not just the 7 biggest stocks that are in our markets. And with Apple pricing in a huge upgrade cycle, it makes sense to sell Apple. If Buffett starts selling everything else, then maybe you should get a little bit more concerned. But as of right now, this makes sense. I personally don't like Apple. It's like the last stock that I would own right now. You'd have to pay me at least a 3% dividend just to own Apple with the expectations that they have. So to get away from Apple a little bit, I don't think this is a sign of impending collapse or anything that I've heard on Twitter for the markets, just because Buffett made a big move in his Apple position. Sentiment today is coming in bearish at 42. Yesterday you were neutral at 50. Not surprising considering we have the election on Tuesday. Again, we have the Fed on Thursday. We have more earnings this week and economic data throughout this week. It's not surprising. People are a little bit more on the bearish side. Message volume is normal at 47. Yesterday was normal at 48. Participation ratio is normal at 54. Google Trends data for worldwide does show an uptrend in the Cybertruck, uptrend in the Model 3. The Model Y is pretty much trading sideways. Model S and X are falling a little bit, but nothing to be concerned with. CNN's Fear and Greed Index is coming in neutral at 49 today, which yesterday you were, Friday, you were at fear, or Thursday you were at fear when we were really selling off. And you did rebound a little bit on Friday. And I expect there is going to be an unwinding of short positions, of bearish positions after the election. Again, no matter who wins, because let's face it, the VIX is at 21.88. It was down 5.5% on Friday. Honestly, that doesn't make too much sense because of the jobs report. But hey, it is what it is. You're probably going to see an unwind of some of the short positions, of some of this bearish positioning, just because of how high the VIX is. The VIX is pretty much at a make it or break it moment in terms of, does things get more fearful from here? If they do, the VIX is going to spike hard, okay? If not, you're already at a pretty bearish level. If things are not as bad as the markets are expecting, the VIX is going to fall. There's going to be an unwind, and that can lead to at least short-term upside for markets. What happens with expectations around inflation, the economy, maybe the tariffs, after all, is going to really dictate what happens to markets over the next 3 to 6 months. But over the next 3 to 6 days, I think there's a really good chance of just finding out who the next president is and markets unwinding those bearish positions and getting back to business as usual. Considering earnings were pretty good, there's a good reason to be at least somewhat bullish on markets. Take a look at the RSI on the SPY. It's at 45.04, so you are under 50, which is on the more bearish side. The percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average is at 48.1%. You were up 1% on Friday, so that did look good. The most recent AI investor sentiment survey shows bullish investors at 39.5%, neutral at 29.6%, and bearish investors at 30.9%, which is the highest reading of bearish investors we have seen over the last couple of months. So there's definitely some fear heading into the election. Again, for like the 20,000th time here on this channel, as long as you don't have a sweep, as long as you don't have a contested election, as long as we know who the president is going to be by probably midday Wednesday, you're more than likely going to get a short-term rally in markets. Whether that lasts or not, totally different conversation. But tactically in the short term, you just want to know who the president is like 24 hours after the end of voting. Option activity on Friday, you've seen 226 different trades totaling $178.13 million with a positive order value of 65%. And as I explained, for this Friday's expiration for Tesla, you do have 2 times as many calls relative to puts. So there's definitely some money betting the stock goes higher. Anywhere from that 260 to 280 level has the most option activity. Tesla's currently sitting at roughly $250 per share. So definitely some upside is expected for Tesla. And honestly, if Trump wins, their relationship, Elon and Trump's relationship, is not going to be as bad as expected. Now, if Kamala wins, then there's going to be more green policies, right? And that's not a super bad scenario either for Tesla. So I actually think, politically speaking, Tesla is set up very well. Now, short interest, our free float sitting at 2.84%. Definitely going to be some pressure on those short positions, I think, over the next couple of days and certainly over the next couple of months. You do have about $20 billion currently sold short in Tesla, 79.29 million shares. On Friday, you had about 507,000 shares that were covered on, and that did help give Tesla a little bit of a boost, but I don't think we have seen anything yet. And Tesla continues to run about 4,000 different ads with Google, and global inventory numbers look like they're continuing to spike a bit. The Model Y up to about 8,100 or so, about 8,000. The Model 3 sitting at 5,700, the Model X at 4,500, and the Model S at 3,000. So let me know what you think about all of this information down below in the comments section. What do you think as far as the election? Do you think it's going to be contested? Do you think it's not going to be contested? I would love your thoughts on that, because honestly, I have no idea. I think it's going to be kind of smooth sailing, and then again, there's that chance of a contested election. So I really don't know with any degree of certainty. Let me know your thoughts down below. You guys have a safe rest of your weekend. Go Lions, and I'll see you in the next one.